come again, Christoph, to come to join me in a conversation.
It's always wonderful to be here.
I think talent and creativity are the questions will not finish as long as humanity is still making things forward, trying to problem solve, trying to communicate with each other and provide a better standard of living. Especially in an investment world like us, we're always looking into firms, whether they are creative or not. You look at lots of companies. What is your experience in terms of managing talents, thinking creativity with these firms?
Yeah, it's a myth that in creative firms, firms that innovate, you just hire all creative people. That's not how it works. I had, for 15 years, the privilege of leading a big project where my colleagues and I had a competition for manufacturing companies who were very successful, managing themselves in a way that made them resilient in being successful in a competitive world. And so I had every year the privilege to visit about 10 manufacturing companies, the finalists in our competition, for a day or even a day and a half, and really look into the guts of what they were doing. It was, I did that for 15 years.
So these manufacturing, they are European based?
European, they were across a number of European countries. But I learned a lot. And what I would typically see is, I'm going into the factory, I'm talking to the plant manager and to the managers of the pieces, and I ask them, where do the good ideas come from for your improvement? Because some of these companies, they are incredibly impressive in being able to generate improvements, which over 5-6 years, like double their productivity. I mean, mind-boggling. And invariably, they would say, oh yeah, on this line, it's that person and that person. They are the idea powerhouses. They come up with 80% of the ideas, so creativity and idea generation isn't spread equally across the population of the employees in any organization. It's always and there are scientific studies that have shown this. Creativity is concentrated in 10% of the heads. And you see this on the shop floor, but you see this among the salespeople. There is 10% of the salespeople who are really innovative in, talking to clients in a new way. It's true in engineering, in the organization that produces new things. Even in the R&D organization, there's 10% of the people who really come up with the breakthrough ideas. You see this universally. You see this, by the way, among academics as well. There's 10% of the people who are really coming up with the new ideas. And as an organization, you need to realize this. You need to harness those people while respecting the contribution that the other people make. 20 years ago, Microsoft tried to come up with a fundamental R&D lab where they hired, for a lot of money, the most creative people from all kinds of other labs and universities and put them all into one organization.
Yes.
And 7 years later, they shut it all down, because if you just only put the most creative people together in one organization, it doesn't work, because they can't work together.
I totally agree. And I think when you talk about the 10% people, the small amount of people generates 80% of idea. And also the newness of idea. I suppose not everyone gets the breakthrough idea every day. With the manufacturing, it is about a daily incremental improvement sometimes.
That's the basics, right? And then the few breakthrough ideas, you get those every once in a while. 90% of the innovation game is an improvement game, and then every 5 years, 10 years, the clock speed depends on the industry, you do something that really puts you on a different plane.
Yes. There is a little story, it just reminds me the little story about this kind of breakthrough idea. These ideas doesn't need to be, let's say, highly technically driven. People who needs to understand actual physics working in a manufacturing plant. Just little story I heard from a friend of mine. They had a little packaging company in China, and so they have the automated machine back in the late 1990s. So they're packaging for various manufacturers. The problem is, with the automated machine, they sometimes found boxes are empty. The machine forgot to put the things into it. So that become a problem. But to solve that problem, not having the empty boxes delivered to the customer become a thing. So they recruited people from a university. So they actually came out a laser-guided weighing system, all right, for the automation line. Well, it cost them, at that time, around £50,000, which that manufacturer didn't have. And there was one guy on the shop floor had an idea. Do you know what he had? He took a very powerful fan, which cost them about £2. I don't know, £20. Significantly less amount of money. Blow at the end of the production line.
Okay.
So the empty box will be blown away. The kind of experience, obviously, that guy had of managing the product line, the kind of ingenuity came out of this, I found this very interesting. However, let me put it this way. We cannot, this was telling me as an example of, the wisdom of the crowd has beaten this professor in terms of the cost efficiency. But surely, this is not going to be a thing for the next 35 years of China. The first 35 years, funny you mentioned about manufacturing. China, I believe, manufacturing is still going to be a big thing for China in the next decade or two. But the last 35 years, manufacturing came from labor intensive, lower cost, actually good quality, the idea like we'll just talk about, a bit frugal, and made the growth, enormous growth. But on the other hand, just your experience in Europe, Germany was never given up to manufacturing, which I think you believe is the right
strength.
thing.
Yes.
Absolutely strength. So I think China, as a population in our sense, manufacturing is still key.
Yeah.
But for the next 25 years of Chinese manufacturing growth, they will need innovation, talent. They need to address this issue more than anyone, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, first, I think your example is a wonderful example because it shows that innovation ideas come from different directions. They don't only come from one analysis direction. And B, you used the word frugal. Sometimes, simpler ideas work better, but manufacturing will be revolutionized within my lifetime, I believe. Because we see three trends which are already well advanced in the impact. One of them is information. Manufacturing is now more and more becoming information. IT systems, AI, and precision of organization and orchestration, which is already embedded, which requires as much investment as the actual physical manufacturing, which is already happening, which incredibly increases productivity. So that's one trend. The second trend is layer-wise 3D printing, layer-wise manufacturing, which will completely change the organization of manufacturing, which will allow to go away from huge factories, not assembly, but some types of factories, and decentralize them, to the dealer or to your home. So we will see a difference in the structure of manufacturing and the flexibility of manufacturing, where you can go to doing every piece being different without losing productivity. And smart materials, nanotechnology and smart materials will also make a difference, which will allow us to build things which were unthinkable in the past. All of that will completely revolutionize manufacturing and make it more automated. Undoubtedly, employment in manufacturing will go down, and the qualification of the people in manufacturing will go up. So we will see an incredible revolution in manufacturing in my lifetime, and the result will be quality, functionality, variety of uses being delivered, which will be incredible.
Yeah. I think we already see the trends of starting.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I could actually print out something quite complicated at home. These things, but I'm still a bit old style. I still believe in old craftsmanship. I think these things are still worth preserve. Not being a Luddite, let me say, I'm not against the change. I think the change will come. We need to adapt for these changes. I don't want to be calling myself as a Luddite against the kind of change.
That would not be a good idea.
That would be not a good idea. but there are dilemmas, as you can imagine. China is still a labor-intensive, let's say, with a large population. So those who potentially will lose their job in terms of the revolutionary of manufacturing, where will these people go?
You can paint a utopian picture, and the utopian picture would be that the end point of all of this is that manufacturing is done all automatedly by machines for our benefit, supervised only by a small cadre of highly specialized professionals who are overseeing that machine. And so we are all freed from the manual labor of actual production, which means, and again this is the utopian picture, that we can spend our time dealing with each other. So for example, you said that you value beautiful handmade things.
Yeah.
And then people will do beautiful handmade things for the beauty of them, and somebody will be willing to buy them because they're beautiful, but not necessarily for their utilitarian value, because utilitarian value will be provided by the automated manufacturing. So we would be able to spend time servicing one another, improving quality of life, because the necessities are being done by an automated system of manufacturing. Now that's the utopian picture. The dystopian picture, of course, is that we will create an army of unemployed who have been left behind by the technological advancement and who are poor. We are seeing the beginnings of this, where parts of the population are being left behind by technological progress, and that splits the society apart. And that's where the elites in the various countries are challenged to not be selfish, but to actually see it as their responsibility to continue to design the economic system in the country that it provides something for everybody. So to give you one example, in Denmark spends an unparalleled amount of their GDP to offer people who have lost their jobs, whose jobs have gone away because of technological progress, to offer them retraining and something else to do. Now it's still a challenge because people don't like to change at some point in their lives, but countries can make institutionalized, systematic efforts to help everybody to stay in the system and to have a future. But that needs to be an explicit decision that countries need to make. And if countries don't make that decision and simply say it's on the shoulder of you as the individual, you have to take care of yourself, you may get a society that is split. And I think we're seeing signs of that in the United States right now.
The worry is the human evolution, let's say, was all based on the natural selection. But now it will be guided by technology. And also, the ownership of these technology or these firms will be again by a small amount of people.
Yes.
Any era, in a sense, nowadays, any era would actually create a large effect on the society by these small amount of people.
Yes. So knowledge, technology and knowledge are strengthening the trend that societies become winner-take-all societies.
Yes.
And that's what you're seeing in the United States. Yes. That in the United States, over the last 20 years, the rich have become richer, the poor have become poorer. And over the course of COVID, over the last year, this has been even accelerated because the people who are in powerful positions who understand technology, who have resources, are able to protect themselves, and the people who are poor are not. And and that's where we need, as you said, social action. Social changes is a key word in this, right? You need social changes in order to make that
I
happen.
agree, but as we discussed, that the machine also sometimes, the algorithm set by people. At the moment, the algorithm is feeding us with a narrative. Then you say, the digital age, feeding us with a narrative the narrative we believe in. It doesn't necessarily offer us the whole picture, the
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
It is feeding us with a narrative or reinforce a narrative we already believe in, which I think that's not value creation, as you see. I found that's actually quite poisonous in a sense, especially in a democracy like this. But coming back to this picture you just pictured me, I think is fascinating. It is a picture of technology, if we use it wisely, could free our time out, and a society which people will then only need to deal with people, free our time, and do the things we like to do, and enhance their creativity. But what I would love is we still have large firms and smaller firms, which could work together as an ecosystem. Let's follow this conversation maybe the next week after. But again, thank you. Fascinating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.